A man is lying on the ground, clutching his chest, can't breathe. The producer looks down at him and says 5 words. He's not worth the delay. Eugene Allen Hackman heard those words, and what he did next cost the studio 3 hours of filming, $200,000, and almost got him fired from his own movie. But here's what that producer didn't understand. Eugene Allen Hackman had watched his own mother work herself to death. He had seen unimportant people destroyed by people who thought they were important, and he wasn't going to watch it happen again. The man on the ground, he lived. 20 years later, he showed up somewhere nobody expected. Stay with me. This one's going to hit different. Los Angeles, September 1988. The film was a mid-budget thriller. Forgettable title, forgettable plot. The kind of movie that pays the bills between the important ones. Eugene Allen Hackman had taken the role for one reason. The director was a friend, a young guy trying to make his break. Eugene wanted to help him, but the director wasn't in charge. Not really. The money came from a producer named Martin Kessler, and Martin Kessler believed in one thing above all else: the schedule. Time is money, he said in every meeting. Every minute we're not filming is a minute we're losing. He had a stopwatch. He literally timed bathroom breaks. He called the crew the help. He called the extras furniture. And he called the actors expensive furniture. Eugene had been on sets with men like Martin before. He knew the type, guys who never created anything in their lives, but somehow ended up controlling everything. Eugene stayed quiet, did his job, kept his head down. Until September 14th. Walter Chen was 54 years old. He had been a camera operator for 31 years. He had worked on classics. Chinatown, The Godfather Part 2, Apocalypse Now. His name was in the credits of films that changed cinema. But in Hollywood, camera operators don't get recognized. They're invisible, essential but invisible. Walter had a wife named Susan, 2 grown daughters. A grandson he called Little Bean because the kid loved lima beans. He also had a heart condition he hadn't told anyone about. Why? Because if the studio knew, they wouldn't hire him. And Walter needed to work. He had 18 months until retirement, 18 months until his pension kicked in. So he kept quiet, took his medication, and hoped for the best. On September 14th, his luck ran out. It was the hottest day of the year, 106 degrees, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer. They were filming an exterior scene. Eugene and 2 other actors standing in a parking lot, delivering dialogue that nobody would remember. Walter was behind the camera, sweating, breathing hard. Eugene noticed. Between takes, he walked over. "You okay?" Walter wiped his forehead. "Fine, just the heat." "You look pale." "I'm always pale. Irish-Chinese. Worst combination for the sun." Eugene almost smiled. "Take a break if you need one." "Can't. Kessler's watching." Walter nodded toward the producer, who was standing in the shade with his stopwatch. "He docked a grip's pay yesterday for taking too long at the water station." Eugene's jaw tightened. "That's illegal." "That's Hollywood." 15 minutes later, they were mid-scene. Eugene was delivering his lines. "I told you, I don't know where the money—" And then he heard it. A crash, metal hitting concrete. He turned. Walter was on the ground. The camera had fallen beside him. His hands were clutching his chest, clawing at his shirt. His face was gray, literally gray. "Walter!" Eugene broke character immediately. He ran toward the fallen man. The other actors stood frozen. Walter's eyes were wide, terrified. He was trying to speak, but couldn't. "Someone call an ambulance! Now!" Crew members scrambled. A PA pulled out a radio. Chaos erupted, and then a voice cut through it all. "Hold on! Everyone hold on!" Martin Kessler was walking toward them, slowly, deliberately, like a man who had all the time in the world. Kessler looked down at Walter, then at his stopwatch. "How long until the ambulance gets here?" the PA stammered. 20 minutes, sir. Maybe more. We're pretty far from the hospital." 20 minutes. Kessler shook his head. "We can't lose 20 minutes. We're already behind schedule." Eugene was kneeling next to Walter, loosening his collar. He looked up at Kessler. "This man is having a heart attack. And the ambulance is on its way. There's nothing more we can do. Let's reset the scene." Eugene stood up slowly. "What did you just say?" "I said let's reset the scene. We have a schedule to keep." "He's dying." Kessler shrugged. One shoulder. Casual, like they were discussing lunch options. "He's not dying. He's having a medical episode. The ambulance will handle it. That's what ambulances are for." Eugene stepped toward him. "You want to keep filming? With a man on the ground? He's not in frame. We can work around him." The crew had gone silent. Everyone was watching. Eugene's voice was quiet, the dangerous kind of quiet. "Work around him?" "Yes. The PA can stay with him until the ambulance arrives. Everyone else back to work." "No." "Excuse me?" "I said no. We're not filming." Kessler's face hardened. "You don't make that decision." "I just did." "Hackman, I'm warning you." "Warning me? Warning me?" Eugene's voice rose. "There's a man on the ground who might be dying and you're timing it. He's a camera operator. He's replaceable." The words hung in the air like poison. Eugene went still, completely still. "What did you just say?" Kessler realized he had gone too far, but he couldn't back down, not in front of the crew. "I said he's replaceable." "That's the reality of this business. Everyone is replaceable, even you." Eugene looked at Walter on the ground, then at the crew, frozen in shock, then at Kessler. "The ambulance is 20 minutes away." "Yes, so the hospital is 12 minutes by car." Kessler blinked. "What?" Eugene was already moving. He pulled his car keys from his pocket. "I'm taking him myself." "You can't do that. We're in the middle of a scene." Eugene knelt down next to Walter. "Can you hear me, Walter? I'm going to pick you up. We're going to the hospital." Walter's eyes focused. He nodded weakly. Kessler stepped forward. "Hackman, if you leave this set, you're in breach of contract. I will sue you for every penny you have." Eugene looked up at him. His eyes were ice. "Then sue me." He lifted Walter, gently, carefully, and started carrying him toward the parking lot. The crew watched in stunned silence. One person started clapping, then another, then the whole set was applauding. Kessler stood alone, face red with rage, stopwatch still in his hand. Eugene broke every speed limit between the set and Cedars-Sinai. He ran 3 red lights. He drove on the shoulder when traffic blocked him. He did things he would never normally do. Walter was in the passenger seat, barely conscious. "Stay with me, Walter. Talk to me." My wife. You're going to see your wife. I promise. Just stay awake." "Little Bean? Who's Little Bean?" "My grandson. He likes lima beans." Eugene almost laughed. "That's weird, Walter. That's a weird thing for a kid to like." "He's weird, kid. You're going to tell me more about him. But you have to stay awake." They made it in 11 minutes. Eugene carried Walter through the emergency room doors himself. "Heart attack! This man is having a heart attack!" Doctors and nurses swarmed. They took Walter from Eugene's arms and disappeared behind swinging doors. Eugene stood in the lobby, covered in sweat, hands shaking. He didn't leave for 6 hours. Susan Chen arrived 40 minutes later. Someone from the set had called her. She was crying before she got through the doors. "Where is he? Where's my husband?" Eugene intercepted her. "He's in surgery. They're taking care of him." "Who are you?" I was working with Walter today. I drove him here." Susan looked at him. Really looked. "You're Eugene Allen Hackman." Yes, ma'am. You drove my husband to the hospital? Yes, ma'am. Susan collapsed into a chair. Eugene sat next to her. The doctors said if he had waited for the ambulance, he wouldn't have made it. The 20 minutes, it would have been too long. Eugene didn't know what to say, so he just sat there. They waited together. Two strangers, connected by a man who liked weird grandkids. 4 hours later, a doctor emerged. Mrs. Chen. Susan stood. Eugene stood with her. Your husband is stable. We had to do emergency bypass surgery, but he's going to make it. Susan burst into tears. She grabbed Eugene's arm for support. He's going to make it because of you, she whispered. You saved him. Eugene shook his head. I just drove fast. You did more than that. You cared. When no one else did. Eugene returned to the set the next day. Martin Kessler was waiting for him, with a lawyer. Mr. Hackman, you left the set without permission. You caused a 3-hour delay. The studio has calculated the damages at $217,000. Eugene looked at Kessler, then at the lawyer. Walter Chen is alive. That's not the point. That's exactly the point. The director, Eugene's friend, stepped forward. Martin, the crew refuses to work with you anymore. What? I said the crew refuses. All of them. They want you removed from this production. Kessler's face went white. You can't do that. Actually, the lawyer said quietly, they can. Union rules. If the crew collectively refuses to work with a producer for safety reasons, the studio has to investigate. Eugene stepped closer to Kessler. You called a dying man replaceable. You wanted to film around him like he was a broken prop. Every person on this crew saw that. He leaned in. Who's replaceable now, Martin? Martin Kessler was removed from the production that day. He never produced another film in Hollywood. Word spreads fast in that town, and the word on Kessler was, he doesn't care if people die. Walter Chen recovered fully. He took early retirement and spent his remaining years with Susan, his daughters, and little Bean, who grew up to become a chef, specializing in, yes, lima bean dishes. Eugene Allen Hackman never talked about what happened. Not in interviews, not in his personal life. When people brought it up, he changed the subject. But there's one more part of this story. February 2025. Eugene Allen Hackman passed away at his home in Santa Fe. The funeral was private, family only, but outside the gates, a small group of people gathered. Crew members, camera operators, grips, gaffers, the invisible people who make movies possible. And in that group was a 74-year-old man with gray hair and a cane. Walter Chen had flown from San Francisco to Santa Fe to stand outside those gates. A reporter asked him why. Because 60 years ago, I was nobody. I was a camera operator having a heart attack on a hot day in Los Angeles. And Eugene Allen Hackman, the biggest star on that set, picked me up and carried me to his car. Walter's voice cracked. He didn't do it for publicity. He didn't do it for money. He did it because that's who he was. He saw people, really saw them. Even the ones everyone else ignored. He wiped his eyes. I got to see my grandson grow up. I got to see him become a chef. I got to hold my great-granddaughter, all because Eugene Allen Hackman decided I was worth more than a movie schedule. They say if you walk through the quiet streets of Santa Fe today, past the adobe houses and the art galleries, you might see an old man walking alone. No entourage, no cameras, no fanfare. Just a man who spent 50 years pretending to be other people, and then spent the rest of his life finally being himself. Eugene Allen Hackman never played the Hollywood game. He never smiled for the cameras when he didn't mean it. He never pretended to like people he didn't respect. And in an industry built on fakery, his authenticity was the rarest thing of all. Is there a moment in your life where someone saw you when everyone else looked away? Or a moment when you saw someone who needed help? Hollywood has many legends, but Eugene Allen Hackman was something different. He was the truth in a city of lies. If you want to know the real stories, the ones they didn't put in the magazines, you're in the right place. We are peeling back the curtain on the legends. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these untold stories. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Eugene Allen Hackman, The Untold Truth, and turn on notifications. We're just getting started. There are stories about Dustin, about Francis Ford Coppola, about the night Eugene walked away from Hollywood forever. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Leave a comment below. Have you ever seen someone do the right thing when it would have been easier to look away? I'll see you in the next video. Stay real.